All right. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, sir.
Nice.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
Alexis, you go by Alexis Fllow, or do you go?
Sometimes it's Flo, sometimes it's Alexis, depending on the social circle. But Alexis is fine, or Flo, whichever.
Cool. Okay, I'll do Alexis, or that's cool. And then I connect with you because someone on Facebook recommended I talk to you, and was like, because I was putting out there that I like to talk to like ecstatic dance leaders and people that are facilitators, and someone was like, I don't know who it was, but it was like, you got to talk to this guy, and so reached out to you. Thought we'd just have a chat and just see what you're up to and see what's alive for you. What's going on with you these days?
These days is 2023 is looking to be a really promising, fulfilling, fruitful year musically. My partner Lydia, artist named Lummingbird, and I have a lot of projects that are almost done and require some little attention here and there, whether it's on the mixing and mastering of music to release, or music videos that she's working on one now called Paradise for You, which we filmed in Tulum, Mexico. And we were deeply engaged in the ecstatic dance community there in Tulum. We were living there for 6 months, sorry. And so we have a lot of music coming out, and I'm really excited about it because the production level is on a higher level than ever before. And I've got a collaboration with one of my hip hop heroes, a guy named, let me turn this Do Not Disturb on. Where are you? There you go. Do not disturb. Okay, cool. I reached out to one of my hip hop heroes for a collaboration, and I'm literally uploading it today for a release. So that's up, and the whole song is called The Power of Hip Hop, and it's all about like just an homage to hip hop and everything that it represents for me, and that, and then and then we've got some shows coming up in Mountain View, Elixir Ecstatic Dance, and then the Elixir also does a big one in Oakland, and yeah, I think, we just got booked for a festival in Middletown, California. So anyway, it's just a lot of music, preparing for live sets. Yeah, it's popping. It's so far so good.
Yeah, it seems like 2023 is like everybody's just like coming out, like, or it's like everyone's starting to bloom. It's like, okay, we're going. Everyone's like been like incubating on our dreams through the whole pandemic, and now it's like took a little bit, but now it's like I'm seeing like everyone's kind of popping, so that's cool.
Yeah, agreed. It was like we're like some bear coming out of hibernation or something.
Yeah, first we were hungry, like, I gotta eat. Now we're just like
we can relax a little bit, and it's fun now because up until quite recently there was still so much fear and so much hesitation, and is it responsible to go out and socialize or not, and I think at this point it's not there's not as much fear in terms of events and socializing and things like that, which is nice because then people are relaxed and can collaborate better and do events without that huge, concern for our health, or are we doing the correct moral thing, are being responsible by gathering and things like that. So it's kind of, I hope that it'll last like this for a while, where we're socializing and creating events for people to gather is natural and encouraged even.
Yeah, no kidding. Hopefully, pray on that one. It's like, holy smoke. Yeah, it's like fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. You've done a lot. You've done a lot of travel. You hit Peru, Mexico. I think I saw your music videos in Utah. Is it Utah that you did a music video on your website? I think it's where's that one? I don't know where.
Oh, yes. Salt Lake City.
Yeah, Salt Lake there.
Salt Lake City. Nice. Yeah. I love to travel. My parents kind of set me up for that kind of lifestyle and normalcy. So yeah, so that video that we shot in Salt Lake was about a year ago. We went on a road trip, and that was one of the spots where we wanted to film, and so we filmed that. And then yeah, since young I've traveled around and then lived places. Like I like to visit places, but I also like to go there and kind of root into the culture, into the lifestyle, and get to know the area really well, which is why we just got back from Tulum, Mexico, where we were for 6 months. And then, once the time comes, it's time to move on. And some years prior, I spent a lot of time in Peru, because I love Peru. I love the culture, love the people, the travelers. And so in about a 5-year span, I lived there about a year total. And so, yeah, that's kind of
you started the ecstatic. Did you start a ecstatic dance, or was it already happening, or what happened there?
No, that was like, I was down there leading retreats, and then I would go to the retreat. We'd do the whole experience, and then 2 weeks later I would leave. And then the next time I was like, after the retreat, I'm going to stay for a couple of weeks. And then it turned into just becoming a second home for me. And the ecstatic dance thing happened because when I was there was so much ayahuasca and medicine work and like serious healing journeys happening. And I started to get, this kind of cabin fever for wanting to dance more. And in the town I was in, which is Bisak in the Sacred Valley where I was living, there were these kind of club nights, but there was a lot of like alcohol and that kind of thing. And it would get a little sloppy, and it didn't, and so I was wanting the kind of space that ecstatic dances create. And there were none. And when I realized that, it was a shock. I'm like, there's so many ecstatic dance type people and musician. I remember that's where I met Mose, who's a brilliant producer and ecstatic dance DJ. And I met Geometry there. And there was really no event space or venue to have these artists and this kind of space. And so I was friends with a guy named Daya, who had a retreat center there where I did the retreats. And I just talked to him and I said, hey, I'd like to do a weekly ecstatic dance there. And that's how it started. And the first one, and it's a small area, so word of mouth traveled really easily. And then the first one was packed. And then I just started doing them every week for 6 months. And then that's how it got going. And then I left, and then that ecstatic dance died basically. But there were other people there who sort of picked up the torch and started their own. And from what I've seen on social media, it grew and tons of people attend. And so I just think it was a need that no one had quite identified or taken on to host. And now there's plenty of opportunities for that kind of event and dance there.
Nice. So for people who just listen to this, well, how would you describe like ecstatic dance? What is an ecstatic dance experience that say be different from like people doing the club and or even just taking a regular dance class of some kind? What was the need there that was fulfilled, or what was that about?
Well, ecstatic dance's core values are rooted in sobriety and dance as a practice, like, so you relate to it as if it's like a social yoga practice, so it's not like you go to yoga class drunk or anything like that, it's a different mindset. But with that said, there's also a social component, like a tribal thing. And there's a format. Usually it's an hour and a half or 2 hours. And the musician or the DJ, there's a sort of an expected format, which is, a slow beginning, spacious, slow, so people can kind of get into the vibe and kind of drop into the moment. And then you slowly speed up the music and it gets a little bit more intense. And then you kind of go up that wave and then ride down and then back up. And then you land people with some sacred, maybe world instrumentation, world music and things like that. And so that's kind of the musical format. And then people are asked to not talk on the dance floor so that people can really, ground into it and know that the dance floor is a sacred space for just dancing and self-expression. Or if you just want to sit down on the ground and meditate, like there's no right way to show up to an ecstatic dance, but there are those kind of format, that format of the 2-hour thing. Sometimes there's some breath work or some connection games to break the ice at the beginning. So often another person will facilitate that, or sometimes the DJ will do it as well. And then at the end, usually there's a circle, a sharing circle where people can come together and talk a little bit about their experience. And yeah, so that's kind of the general outline for an ecstatic dance.
And what's your where does this come from? Where was your connection to that? To just doing ecstatic dance from beginning it to leading it? What was your progression there?
Well, first of all, I just gotta say I love ecstatic dance because it's brought me so much healing and joy and meeting people and the tribal sense of belonging. I was really needing and wanting that in my life. And it was around 2013 where I was invited to go on a date to an ecstatic dance. And I first,
nice.
Yeah,
nice
it was a great date. Yeah, it was a great date. And I remember she saying, "Oh, do you want to go to an ecstatic dance?" And I heard ecstatic dance, like ecstatic, like what is that? Like we're going to do ecstasy or something, or like I didn't know what it was at all. And this is in San Francisco, California, where I was born and grew up. And so I asked some questions because I was a little scared at first. I was like, is this a culty? Like, what is this? Knowing nothing about it. And then she told me some of the information I shared with you. And I said, okay, let's do it. And it was in the Mission in San Francisco, and a man named Tyler Blank was hosting it. And I showed up and I felt awkward because I didn't know how to quite behave. And there was a big sound system, a big subwoofer, and they were playing Burning Man electronic style music, bass music and world bass music and dance music and electronics dance music. And I love all that stuff already, but here I am and, was sober and people were super into it and getting super primal. And this particular dance was like that. They're not all like that, but the people there were so into it and crawling on the floor and interacting with each other, doing contact dance. And I was just amazed by the whole thing, looking around. And I'm like, whoa, wow, this is very tribal. And people are really comfortable being in this wild self-expression. And it was very, like, it activated or turned something on in me of like remembering more primal aspects of my humanity. Yeah. And so by the end of it, I was like the dude who like totally jumped in and was dancing with the date that I went on. And she had more experience. So she was kind of making me feel at ease and showing me the ropes. And so that's how that started. And then from then on, ecstatic dance has been even part of my identity. So after that, I started going more often. And then I had the desire to lead my own, because at the time I was doing more of performance hip hop shows kind of thing. And I didn't really know if I could fit into that, but I really wanted to. And so I started to learn how to DJ, and then eventually DJ'd with with ecstatic dance in San Francisco and in Marin and other places. And then I started, contacting other ecstatic dances and doing little tours and things like this. And then eventually, like I was telling you, and when I learned how to DJ, I started to learn how to just be a DJ and not a hip hop person, and then just do the kind of ecstatic dance format. But then slowly I started to see other ecstatic dance DJs were also musicians, and they were playing different instruments and keys and world instruments and things like that, and some singing and stuff. And so I said, oh, okay, well, maybe there is space for rapping and singing. And so eventually I started incorporating some of my alternative hip hop stuff into the ecstatic dance format. And now I do that, which is kind of it's my signature thing that's different than other people. And Lummingbird and myself will sing over songs while we're mixing in the next song and things like that. So it's a journey with some hip hop. And like I told you, in Peru, it was just, I really wanted to be in an ecstatic dance and there weren't any happening around me. So I started to host it, and that's kind of where I'm at with it,
Nice. Yeah, so people could check it out. You got a lot of your songs and stuff on your website, and then I saw YouTube videos where you're combining the conscious hip hop and the dance. Looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's a lot of
what
fun.
happened? So you went to Peru? Yeah. And then you went to Peru, and what were you doing there? You're doing some retreats and stuff. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. That was at the same time that I was basically, I'd done a lot of personal development work, and I still found myself doing the same mistakes and sabotaging intimacy and not following through on my purpose and desires, and not saying what I mean, and just kind of wanting to develop myself personally so that I could feel more whole and joyful and connected and things like that. And then after 7 years of doing that, I kept doing the same mistakes, and I'm like, I'm so aware of what I'm doing, and yet I can't help myself in a way. So then I got interested in shamanism and researched that for a couple of years. And then I put it out to the universe that I would love to go to Peru and do ayahuasca. And then a mutual friend who was in the personal development scene asked me if I wanted to go to Peru to be her Spanish interpreter, because I speak Spanish. And so that was a great door that opened for me once I declared to the universe that I wanted to engage in plant medicine work. And the reason for that was because I basically got to a point where I was like, I need help, because everything I'm doing of my own will with all this, years and years of personal development, I'm still doing the same stuff. I felt like I needed to get deeper, and I thought the ayahuasca would do that. So I went on her retreat, experienced miracles in terms of healing and getting to the root of some of my self-sabotage ways, and right on that trip, I declared that I was going to lead my own retreats, because I wanted to make this more part of my lifestyle. I was very passionate about it. I was like, everybody needs to do ayahuasca. I was super excited. And then as soon as I got back, I just started telling everyone I knew about my experience. And then people were like, I want to go. And I'm like, okay, well, in 3 months, we're going to go back to where I went. And that's how the retreats started. And that adventure was called Spirit Quest.
Well, I imagine a lot. How do you put it all together? But what do you feel now that catapulted you to? What are the big pieces of ayahuasca that helped you?
So with a lot of the introspection work and preparation, and becoming much more aware of what I eat, and having a clean diet, and just trying to be as clean of a vessel as you can be. Mm-hmm. So to think of a human being not only as this separate ego thing, but as a channel, and you don't even need to get woo about it. We're just channeling emotions and thoughts and ideas and taking care of our body. And so I started to think of of the human being as more of a vessel. And what happens for a lot of humanity is that we get stuck into this kind of separate consciousness, that we think we're separate from everything. We're separate from nature. We're separate from other people. And we kind of just function like that. And what ayahuasca allowed me to do is to really cleanse my thoughts and my mind, my emotions. And like I was telling you, I basically got to the root of something that was causing me tons of breakdowns in my life. That thing that I was telling you was kept sabotaging. And then I learned that we sometimes get stuck in a moment, a childhood situation. And basically for me, I was able to go back to a point in my childhood when I was around 8 years old, where I made this declaration inside my head that human beings weren't trustworthy, and that you should always prepare for that, expect people to break your heart, expect people to trespass. And it was a simple, innocent moment in my life. It wasn't a deeply traumatic event or anything like that, but I made this declaration inside my head, and then I forgot I did that. And what the ayahuasca ceremony showed me was that, first of all, I remembered I had committed to that don't trust humanity, Earth's a bad place. And so I was going around confirming this reality in relationships, and I kept finding evidence for why people were not trustworthy. And so I kept creating, I kept making this belief real. And then I couldn't understand why I was doing it. Ayahuasca helped me go to that moment. And then I saw a lot of different branches of the tree that grew out of that commitment. And I felt so much emotion, and I cried, and I purged, and I had realizations. And then after that ceremony, my life hasn't been the same, because the equivalent, I would say, is imagine having a spear in your gut, but it's in your soul. And this experience pulled the spear out of my soul, and it hurt, and I bled, I spiritually bled, and I had to recover and kind of make sense of my world from a new perspective. But then it left me feeling like an open channel that's available to connect with Mother Earth, Father Earth, with other people, to risk being more emotionally vulnerable and more authentic in my self-expression. So yeah. So I've often said that ayahuasca is kind of like a plumber for the soul. Whatever's stuck or not moving or crusty, or even if it's belief systems, it'll freshen and cleanse your whole system so that you could kind of be whole again. And then the retreats were about trying to make that available to others, and also continue my own journey with it, with the tribe and with the team. And my prayer for all those people was that they could experience the same level of healing and magic that I was experiencing.
That's awesome. How does that relate at all to the ecstatic dance? You're talking about the vessel and the being clear with your diet, the plumbing out. I would relate it to ecstatic. There's a relationship in that for you.
Total. I'm remembering now as you asked that question, because when I approached this ayahuasca work, there was so much seriousness in the personal development. It was so I need to heal. I need to get whole. I need to become a better person. There was so much energy spent on trying to prove and get somewhere, right? And then at some point, when I started feeling better about myself and humanity and others, and seeing the sheer possibility that being a human being is, with less of those limitations and sabotage mechanisms, I'm what would human beings do if they were healed? How would I behave if I was healed? And I'm like,
Yeah.
probably enjoy life a lot more and not take it all so
Sing and
serious.
dance.
Yeah, let's dance, let's play, let's connect, let's be in our self-expression. Let's see what's possible with these like animal suits that we have,
Yeah.
and connect with people and connect with people.
Yeah.
So then I started to think like, why this is so serious? Like there's so much heavy energy around the Sacred Valley and this conversation of shamanism and ayahuasca. And there's also so much fear, which there should be, because it's a very powerful, it's a very powerful journey, and you're opening up yourself to energies and perspectives bigger than your little ego. So you should have fear around it, but at the same time, you should also be able to give yourself permission to relax and to enjoy and to connect. And that was where the ecstatic dance hosting came to my mind, because I thought it would bring some joy and some levity to the conversation of what being a human being is. And so in some ceremonies, the initial ones that I went to, dancing or standing wasn't really allowed or encouraged, I guess. But I started to get like, I would go through these, realms where I had to purge or look at something really difficult. And then I'd come out the other end and I'd be like, whoa, cool. Like, wow, I processed something really big. And then the music in the ceremonies would continue. And I just like, my body would sort of just like command me to get up and dance. But since it wasn't really allowed, the day after the ceremony, I would want to dance with other people. And I had my own practice where I would go nuts by myself dancing to music I liked, but that's great. But I also wanted to do it with community and with the other people I was doing the sacred work with. And so that's the blessing of ecstatic dance, that you could go to that space and not worry about having people around you kind of be really drunk and blacked out. And some of the places that we, like club life and that kind of thing, it's the goal many times is to disassociate, not feel pain, and kind of get outside of your suffering with alcohol or substances. And that doesn't feel very good when you're coming out of a experience where you feel super like innocent and cleansed and clear, like you don't want to drink, and drinking and ayahuasca don't go well at all together. So the ecstatic dance is a very safe, clean space for you to do the connecting and the like ecstatic self-expression, but without some of that darker disassociative energy.
Yeah. And it's like you said, you've kind of evolved your music into it, which now what I've heard you saying is you're moving more in the direction of your music. What's happening there? Like since you got back, have you noticed a shift? Are you're doing less ecstatic dance now and more into your music, or what's happening for you in that realm?
Well, I guess so I got to a point with ayahuasca where I got the intuition, the wisdom, the voice of God saying, like, you've done enough. Like, don't keep looking for more stuff to heal. Like, you're healed. And there's more emotions to process. There's more difficulty. Like, it's not like you stop suffering or life stops being completely easy, but it's a lot more easeful and joyful, but there's still that, we're still human beings, right?
Yeah.
But I became more interested in developing my own songs and instrumentals, and I wanted to get really good at recording vocals and performing these songs. So I stopped doing the ayahuasca plant medicine work, and then I came back to California, and then COVID happened, right? And so that was such a creative time for me, because it was basically like, you have to stay at home and like don't leave your room and isolate. And to me, that was a huge blessing, because all of a sudden I stopped focusing on trying to get gigs and preparing for DJ sets, and I just focused on production. So in the last 3 years, my production and creativity and lyristry and all of that went up and up. And I always knew that once ecstatic dances and other festivals and things opened up, that I'd be ready with a bunch of original material. And so I in the last couple of years, I've released, I think, 12 songs on Spotify and other platforms, and started to make more connections with other artists. And then slowly, when the world opened up again, I'm like, I'm an ecstatic dance DJ, but I'm also a vocalist, and so is my partner, Lummingbird. And so when we go do events now, people know that that's our angle, or that's part of our offering. So usually in an ecstatic dance set, we will prayer form 3 or 4 songs, and then DJ another 20 songs or so of other people's stuff, and then seamlessly blend that all in together. But we also do shows where, like last week, we were in Sebastopol, California, at a place called Soft Medicine, and they wanted us to just perform our own song. So it was more of like a concert or a show, where we just did one of our songs, one after the other, and some storytelling with the songs as well, because they all come from like a heartful, thoughtful place.
Nice. And how was it getting the ecstatic dance together? Did you find it was easy to get people to show up, or to come? I mean, now it sounds like you're doing shows that other people are bringing the audience and you're performing. What was your experience in that?
Honestly, in Peru, and this was like a great lesson, that it's like, when something wants to be manifested that would be helpful to community and to self and others, there's a sort of effortlessness where you're kind of the doula of an idea or of an event or of a tribe or something like that. And that's what happened in Peru. It was quite easy, actually, because there wasn't competition for ecstatic dance at that time. So it wasn't like you were competing with other event promoters. And so it's kind of this idea that it's like an idea whose time has come. That's what it felt like. So I basically made some flyers, got a venue, made some connections with the sound system guy, and prepared sets, and just put it on the local Sacred Valley groups on Facebook. And that was it. And then the word of mouth just carries itself. And then next thing you know, people are, artists or DJs are contacting you because they want to share their music there. And yeah, I think the experience itself, if it's a good one, then people start telling other people. And the Sacred Valley tribe is pretty connected because it's not massive. People see each other all the time. And so it was kind of easy, actually. And it brought a lot of people joy and introduced certain people to other people that would know each other. And so it kind of snowballs. With that said, I've done quite a bit of events in the San Francisco Bay Area, and that could be a little more difficult because there's so much. There's so much that's trying to get your attention and get you to come to their event and be part of their tribe. But in right now, there's in the Bay Area, the 2 people I know that are doing it really well and that have done it for a long time is Donna, who does Elixir, not Elixir, but Elixir. And she has one in Mountain View and one in Oakland. And the Oakland one's doing really well. And the Mountain View one, she's growing, but it's a little bit more of a challenge for her to grow that one. I think longevity and consistency is key to growing an event. And then Tyler Blank has been hosting. He was hosted the first one I ever went to, and that's like his life. He just hosts one in Fairfax, in Marin, and in San Francisco. He's just starting a new one, and he has it dialed in. He has beautiful community, people that have been going for years. Nice.
Yeah, Donna's going to be on the podcast in a couple of weeks, I think. So.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, she's going to share her story. Your music's been your life your whole life. You're telling me a bit about growing up. Your dad, who's interesting as a monk and the whole story there. Tell me a bit about that, your childhood growing up, and a bit about your dad.
Yeah. My fascination with music started because my dad used to have tons of records and a record player, and he's Cuban. And so my whole dad's side of the family, him and my uncles and aunts and great uncles, and they were all born in Cuba. And then they went to Miami. And whenever we would go to events in Miami, as like family events, inevitably guitars and other instruments would come out, and everyone would gather around and sing these beautiful Cuban songs together. And as a kid, I remember being like, wow, this is the most interesting thing my dad does. And I love when he plays the guitar and sings. And I noticed how it brought people together and nourished people in this very very essential way that I didn't think was happening enough in my reality. So whenever it happened, I was like, ooh.
Yeah, no kidding. Nice.
The smiles, the laughs, my great aunt, putting her hand on her brother's shoulder while he sang, and it was just so tribal and magical to me. And if you really think about music, if you really start to think about what it is and what is it doing and why is it so meaningful, it really takes you to this place of awe and wonder. So that was my original fascination started. And then I discovered hip hop and Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre and Tupac and tons of other stuff where I was just like, wow, this is so cool. And people like, how do people talk that fast? And how do they memorize all of those words? And it just fascinated me too. And then Beastie Boys and then the band 311 like really lit something in me where it was like, I want to do this. I want to make cutting edge hybrid hip hop music with the goal of sharing it with people and making a positive impact through this passion of mine, and trying to recreate that sense of aliveness and unity that I saw in my family and with my dad and uncles and aunts. And that's also why I love ecstatic dance, because people come together, and when you all kind of get on that same wavelength and allow yourself to be free and dance and express, it allows for this activated sense of aliveness and unity and tribal belonging that I live for. I live for that. I live for that. I want to participate. I want to dance. I want to swim in it. I want to somehow participate in stewarding and creating that space, because it's just such a joyful affirmation of life. And then you'd mentioned my dad is a monk, and I grew up with a very religious dad, and I saw through him, I see hip hop as biblical. Honestly, to get right to the heart of it, I realized, preachers get up and share homilies in masses and cathedrals and online or whatever, and they're sharing words that help people, that guide people, that point to the sacredness, that try and inspire kindness and reverence for life. That's basically this exact same thing I'm doing, just the medium is different, and it's hip hop. And so, with the ayahuasca and all that, I've taken a different route in life, but essentially it's the same, as just to spread good, positive messages and have a great time getting into our body, outside of just our head. I think our modern world tends to be super heady, intellectual. And this music and the dancing and the connection allows for our nervous systems to relax, be in the present now, breathing, connecting, expressing, smiling, sometimes crying, whatever the emotional catharsis is. And then, spreading some seeds of joy and hope and light codes and activations, is just endlessly interesting, and something that I'm just deeply devoted to.
Sweet. Yeah, and that I love that you said there about just the that tribalness of just like the music, and dance, and really just the expression, and then like the word, using those pieces that we're not just by ourselves, but we're coming together to have that mutual experience of what's your experience, what's mine, let's experience together the joy, and then also sometimes the tears, and just the have experience in relation, is powerful.
Right. Well, a question for you is like, have you experienced concerts or raves or shows or whatever that really nourished you in a deep way?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I've done ecstatic dance has been a big part of my life, but also like five rhythms and some of the other modalities that just kind of deeper into those experiences, and then concerts too. But yeah, a lot of things. I think our most enriching, deep experiences happen in community. They happen individually, but then in relationship, they kind of have another depth, or kind of a more diverse tapestry of the experience, that in that relationship we go, oh, there's more ahas. I think there's more like, oh, even just watching someone else transform, you go, oh, it touches you, and you get a little expansive. So
true. Yeah, that's very, it, for me to give myself permission to get more into my wild, like non-linear, just joyful dance. It took me a while to get comfortable and give myself license to do that. But when I saw other people, like at ecstatic dances, at other modalities, Burning Man festivals, things like that, I was like, wow, I'd love to be that free. I didn't know I could be that free. Watching other people literally transforms you, just watching them be in their self-expression.
Sometimes just knowing they exist, go, oh wow, this, in their artistry, or like, just listening to music, go, oh wow, that's someone's like, I was watching your videos, and just by watching some of your videos, it was kind of opened me up to like this, place of joy and happiness, because that was the expression coming through of just like joy, love, peace, like just that very, the beautifulness of that, the simplicity and beauty of it. Just kind of
simplicity.
Yeah.
It is quite simple. You just, have some speakers or some instruments. They generate tones and sounds and melodies, and then everybody agrees, well, we're just going to swim in this however we want. And it's a quite simple thing, but so essential, and I think also sometimes in the personal development and spiritual world, I realized that there was such an importance placed on sovereignty and autonomy, which is important, obviously, to like really get in touch with your truth and yourself, and your, get comfortable being in your own body and your own, that's all priceless work. But sometimes that individualization, that individuality can sometimes overlook the fact that we actually need other people. We don't just want to connect with other people. If our goal is to be healthy and alive and connected and joyful, we actually do need other people just as much as we need glasses of water, right? And so at some point I realized part of the seriousness was cutting me off, because I'm like, no, I'm a sovereign. Like, I don't need a partner. I don't need anyone. I'm like a solopreneur and all this stuff. But there's so much joy and nourishment you miss out on when you carry around that belief that like you have to be like hyper strong and sovereign. And the dancing and really any modalities that bring people together in a good way, we need that as human beings. And in this world, I think that's why perhaps ecstatic dance is seen as more of like a underground, hippie fringe, like little weird thing. I've introduced it to some people that were like, this is weird, and like, this is not for me. This is like not normal, and I've seen people just go like that because it's not normal, I guess you would say, even though it's global phenomenon. But that sense of allowing yourself to acknowledge that you actually need that real sense of belonging, that tribal connection, and those moments of aliveness with other people are essential to well-being.
Yeah, it's like you're declaring your independence, but then from that, there's that term interdependence. Like,
right,
it's kind of like it's like first you come into your independence, but then blossoming into that interdependence, which is like a next level up.
Exactly. That declaration of interdependence.
Which we all are on this planet. We're all interdependent. Right. Yeah.
We totally depend on. I wouldn't even be able to have this conversation with you because I don't know how to make clothes. I have no idea how computers work. I don't get how wirelessly this is going through the ethers to get like I don't. We're just so basically interdependent, and I think that sense of belonging is also very, very important. And in our modern society, sometimes we belong to clubs or things, and those are all essential. But sometimes it's more of an imagined sense of like, oh, you're in the club because you're on my email list, or you're in this tribe because you have a Costco card, or you wear Nikes, so like you feel like you belong to some culture. And those things are important and stuff, but some of that, like deep, like you actually are part of a living community where there's a healthy circulation. It's actually, there's a realness, there's a real nourishment there, not just a kind of self-identification with a tribe, but like actually you do have a tribe you belong to. And the beautiful thing, like, for example, Lydia and I moved to Tulum, like I was telling you, and we knew one person there. And through that one person, he's a friend and brother, Compass. He's a ecstatic dance DJ and musician. He introduced us to Agni, who hosts Ecstatic Church weekly there. So it's an ecstatic dance called Ecstatic Church in Playa del Carmen. I basically I instantly felt part of the culture and the tribe and the social scene there, because I just started going to every one, and we DJ'd some of them too. And instant belonging, instant positivity, instant matching up of core kind values. And that's really important. And that's like, can't be underestimated how important. You could go anywhere on the globe, and chances are there's going to be a ecstatic dance tribe near you. So that's crucial.
Nice. And then probably the last thing I want to talk about is, I know that some of your stuff, you had a lot of alien stuff, imagery and alien things in it. I always love that. I love that whole conversation. But there you go. Oh, dang, that's cool.
It's Buddha everywhere. Alien. Yeah, Buddha alien. Yeah, I love aliens. I think the alien fascination for me started in high school. The band who I mentioned, 311, their biggest breakthrough album had a picture of the 5 dudes in the band, and they all had these alien eyes. And I was like, do you know that band?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so 311.
Yeah, like, yeah. Whoa, amber is the color of your energy. And that's their softer side. But they're like high octane, high energy rap, rock, reggae. Like basically they do whatever they want, and it's awesome. And so the alien thing was like, oh, I also feel like I am an alien in some ways. Like I don't quite belong in this world. I'm not from this world. A lot of the things I see on Earth, and the wars and the disrespect and all of this stuff, like that feels so foreign to me. And I don't feel like I'm from here. So that's kind of where the alien thing started. And it's in my logo too, which is a kind of nod to, it's a nod to 311 for activating, you see the alien, activating that consciousness in me. But then it's gone down a rabbit hole since then, because through my meditations and ayahuasca and all of that, I know that there are other beings out there beyond what we can quantify or qualify. I've communed with aliens, and you can take that to mean whatever. Some people think aliens are like a saucer or like a gray, and maybe that's true too. I've never myself encountered like that, but in a very like deep meditative, high vibrational state, I've had conversations with benevolent aliens. So and in those conversations, I've said, like, what is your purpose? Why do I get to sit here at this table with you? And they're like, well, we are just here to help the evolution of humankind. That's it. And so the alien thing for me is like, I'm beyond the conversation of are aliens real or not, or like that's like crusty old news to me. To me, it's like, I don't need to prove it to anyone, but I know that there are other beings, call them aliens or call them the great mystery, that actually exists. And I like to hang out with the benevolent ones, because I do think there are some influences from beyond our senses that aren't very positive, that are more like vampire, like some of the like evilness that you see in the world. I think can kind of, wherever that evil comes from, I think other beings come from there. But to go back to the music thing, it's, I want to continue contributing, participating in music and community dance, because it's a passion of mine, and because what else would I want to use my life force for, my time here on earth, but then to try and reach a level of satisfaction and existential purpose doing what I love, while at the same time wanting to make a positive impact on the world doing that which I love. And I found that music and songs and lyrics and dances, ecstatic dances and festivals and shows and beyond make people feel good and smile and happy and connect. And it's a subject which bonds a lot of the people that I'm friends with, all have that in common. It's just this deep love of music and devotion to it.
Yeah. What's happening? You got some shows coming up and things, or what's on your radar?
Yeah. So let's see. So at the end of, in a couple weeks on January, what is it? Yeah, so there's a ecstatic dance in Mountain View on January 23rd. That's with Donna, Elixir, and then another ecstatic dance on March 1st in Oakland. And I've heard that's about 100 people. So if you like that big, the big energy that makes real high vibes, like really go up there, that's a good one. And then we have a show in Middletown, California. I'm not exactly sure what the date is. I think it's, do you remember the, no, she's busy. I don't know exactly the date for that. Let me see if I can quickly find it.
I could probably put a link to it too. And when I post this, I'll put a link in.
Yeah, I think it's March. It's called Moon Dust, and it's in March,
Okay.
and it's a kind of like a mini camping festival. It'll probably be like 200 people, something like that. So, and then
Nice.
we have a couple of, like I told you, a track that I'm about to put up for distribution today. That should be out in a month. That's called The Power of Hip Hop
Okay.
with a friend, a rapper named Celsius 7 from Alameda. And then after that is a producer named Marty Party. His instrumental and my vocals. It's like big bump and bass hip hop.
Nice.
I've played that out a couple times, and it's a high energy like bass hip hop song, and it's perfect for ecstatic dance. So so I'll definitely be playing that one out more.
Sweet. Well, hey, I appreciate you taking the time here to have a really cool conversation. It's been
Yeah,
nice.
likewise. Likewise.
Yeah,
Thank you
maybe
for
we'll,
having
maybe
me.
we'll meet each other on the dance floor sometime. Or
Where are you at?
I'm up in Olympia, Washington.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
so
okay.
Washington State, just south of Seattle. But I'm looking to come up and down the coast here in a bit. So I'll have to
Cool.
come meet up with you or something.
You have dances over there in your area?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm leading some dances here around town. I
Oh,
do workshops, ecstatic dance, conscious dance workshops, just in and around the area, and kind of expanding it around. Hopefully, go down as far as Mount Shasta, but maybe even at some point down your way. So yeah,
perfect. Well, let me know if you do, and
yeah. Maybe
I
we'll have you jump in and do some hip hop, do
yeah, I'd
some
love to.
collaboration.
I'd love to.
Right on.
I'd love to. Right on. Well, thanks for having me, and like big success with all the things that you're into and you're doing.
Yeah, let's stay in touch.
Yeah, for sure.
All
All right,
right,
bro.
thanks. Do you ever want us to name your website or anything like that? The last little bit here.
Yeah,
How
yeah.
can people find you?
Yeah. People can find me on my website, which is flow with two L's, FLLOW the word love. And all the music and email lists, sign up, and all our music videos are there. And my partner, Lummingbird, behind me, who you can't see, she's working away. We collaborate on everything. So she's awesome at making music videos. You could see those there. So it's www.flow with two L's.love.
Cool. And I'll put when I put this together, I'll put the links at the bottom where the people can find it too. If people are looking up, hopefully they can easily just look underneath this video and link up with you. So
Perfect. I
cool.
always like to people that sign up, I always like to send them a gift of an unreleased song. So you can let them know
Oh,
if they
nice.
sign up that I'll send them a unreleased track.
Sweet. All right, we'll do that.
All
All right,
right.
man. Take care. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Peace. Bye. And